Welcome to the YouTube channel Bookworm. Today, we will listen to a brief retelling of the following book, The Hound of the Baskervilles by Arthur Conan Doyle. The famous detective Sherlock Holmes and his friend assistant Dr. Watson examine a cane left in the apartment on Baker Street by a visitor who came in their absence. Soon the owner of the cane appears, physician James Mortimer, a tall young man with close-set gray eyes and a long, protruding nose. Mortimer reads to Holmes and Watson an old manuscript, a legend about the terrible curse of the Baskerville family, entrusted to him not so long ago by his patient and friend, Sir Charles Baskerville, who died suddenly. Domineering and intelligent, not at all prone to fantasies, Sir Charles took this legend seriously and was ready for the end that fate had in store for him. In ancient times, one of the ancestors of Charles Baskerville, the owner of the Hugo estate, was distinguished by an unbridled and cruel disposition. Inflamed with an unholy passion for the daughter of a farmer, Hugo kidnapped her. Having locked the girl in the upper chambers, Hugo and his friends sat down to feast. The unfortunate woman decided on a desperate act. She went down from the window of the castle along the ivy and ran home through the swamps. Hugh rushed after her in pursuit, setting the dogs on the trail, his comrades after him. On a wide lawn among the marshes, they saw the body of a fugitive who died of fear. Nearby lay the corpse of Hugo, and above him stood a vile monster that looked like a dog, but much larger. The monster tormented the throat of Hugo Baskerville and sparkled with fiery eyes. And although the writer of the legend hoped that Providence would not punish the innocent, he nevertheless warned his descendants to beware of going out into the swamps at night when the forces of evil reign supreme. James Mortimer relates that Sir Charles was found dead in an avenue of yews, not far from the gate leading to the swamps. And nearby, the doctor noticed fresh and clear footprints of a huge dog. Mortimer asks Holmes for advice, as the heir to the estate, Sir Henry Baskerville, is coming from America. The day after his arrival, Henry Baskerville, accompanied by Mortimer, visits Holmes. Sir Henry's adventures began immediately upon arrival. Firstly, his shoe was missing in the hotel. And secondly, he received an anonymous message with a warning to keep away from the peat bogs. Nevertheless, he is determined to go to Baskerville Hall, and Holmes sends Dr. Watson with him. Holmes himself remains on business in London. Dr. Watson sends Holmes detailed reports on life on the estate, and tries not to leave Sir Henry alone, which soon becomes difficult as Baskerville falls in love with nearby Miss Stapleton. Miss Stapleton lives in a house in the marshes with her entomologist brother and 2 servants, and her brother jealously protects her from Sir Henry's advances. Having arranged a scandal on this occasion, Stapleton then comes to Baskerville Hall with an apology and promises not to interfere with the love of Sir Henry and his sister, if he agrees to be content with her friendship within the next 3 months. At night in the castle, Watson hears women's sobs, and in the morning he finds the butler's wife, Barrymore, in tears. He and Sir Henry manage to catch Barrymore himself on the fact that he gives signs at the window with a candle at night, and from the swamps he is answered in the same way. It turns out that a fugitive convict is hiding in the swamps. This is the younger brother of Barrymore's wife, who for her remained only a mischievous boy. One of these days he must leave for South America. Sir Henry promises not to betray Barrymore and even gives him some of his clothes. As if in gratitude, Barrymore says that a piece of a half-burned letter to Sir Charles with a request to be at the gate at 10 o'clock in the evening has survived in the fireplace. The letter was signed LL. Next door, in Coby Tracy, lives a lady with those initials, Laura Lyons. Watson goes to her the next day. Laura Lyons admits that she wanted to ask Sir Charles for money to divorce her husband, but at the last moment she received help from other sources. She was going to explain everything to Sir Charles the next day, but she learned from the newspapers about his death. On the way back, Watson decides to go to the swamps. Even earlier, he noticed some kind of person, not a convict, there. Stealthily, he approaches the supposed dwelling of the stranger. Much to his surprise, he finds in an empty hut a note scrawled in pencil. Dr. Watson has gone to Coombe Tracy. Watson decides to wait for the occupant of the hut. Finally, he hears approaching footsteps and cocks his revolver. Suddenly, a familiar voice is heard. "Today is such a wonderful evening, dear Watson. Why sit in the heat? It's much nicer out in the air." The friends hardly have time to exchange information. Holmes knows that the woman whom Stapleton passes off as his sister is his wife. Moreover, he is sure that Stapleton is his opponent. When they hear a terrible scream, the cry is repeated. Holmes and Watson rush to help and see the body of an escaped convict dressed in Sir Henry's costume. Stapleton appears. By clothes, he also takes the deceased for Sir Henry. Then, with a great effort, Avil hides his disappointment. The next day, Sir Henry goes alone to visit Stapleton, and Holmes, Watson, and the detective Lestrade, who arrived from London, are hiding in the swamps near the house. Holmes' plans are almost knocked down by the fog creeping from the side of the bog. Sir Henry leaves Stapleton and heads home. Stapleton starts a dog in his wake. A huge black dog with a burning mouth and eyes. They were smeared with a phosphorescent composition. Holmes manages to shoot the dog, although Sir Henry still survived the nervous shock. Perhaps even more shocking for him is the news that the woman he loves is Stapleton's wife. Holmes finds her bound in a back room. Finally, she rebelled and refused to help her husband in the hunt for Sir Henry. She also escorts the detectives deep into the bog where Stapleton hid the dog, but no trace of him can be found. Obviously, the swamp swallowed the villain. To improve his health, Sir Henry and Dr. Mortimer go on a trip around the world, and before sailing they visit Holmes. After they left, Holmes tells Watson the details of this case. Stapleton, a descendant of one of the branches of the Baskervilles. Holmes guessed this by his resemblance to the portrait of the impious Hugo, was repeatedly seen in fraud, but he managed to safely hide from justice. It was he who suggested that Laura Lyons first write to Sir Charles, and then forced her to refuse a date. Both she and Stapleton's wife were entirely at his mercy, but at the decisive moment, Stapleton's wife ceased to obey him. After finishing the story, Holmes invites Watson to go to the opera, to the Huguenots.